Hey everyone, Steve here. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what happened last night at the Hanabie concert at the Brooklyn Bowl. I'm going to say right off the bat, this is not a criticism of Hanabie in any way. This is a criticism of how the venue handled entry into the venue. Uh, I got there pretty early. I was able to hear some of the tail end of Hanabie's sound check through the doors. Uh, they said VIP would line up at 4 o'clock. So I decided, I'm gonna go take a walk, come back. At 4 o'clock, I did return. I asked one of the guards up front, "Hey, where's the VIP line?" He told me to go stand by this other wall. But at the same time, they were just informing the VIPs who were standing in the one line they had uh, to do the same thing. So uh, people got out of order. There was some grumbling. One guy said something to me. I get his frustration. I was just going where I was told. Um, apparently there was like a numbering system in place, and I don't know. Like when I first arrived, no one said anything about a numbering system, so I didn't know how to react to that. So I apologize to that guy for that. It's just it's a repeating theme. So we'll get more into that. So we were told that we're going to be in by 5. Now it was fairly warm up until about 5. And this genius here decided, well, I'm going to do a t-shirt and a vest because I don't want to be encumbered in the concert itself. And it's going to be pretty warm. And, by the time we get in, we'll be fine. But, 6 o'clock rolls around and that's doors. That's GA doors. And we're still standing out there. And I don't know what time we actually started going in. It was definitely past 6. And, they're letting in the VIPs now, and even right through the main doors, staff saying, "Well, hey, if you're VIP entry, you're going through this door. If you're meet and greet, you're going over to this window." They're not separate. So if someone misunderstood, they could have gone by without getting their wrist stamped. And I don't know if that would have caused them problems later, but if they had to come back, it would have been another headache. So right through those main doors was the merch area. No instruction about what's going on. No line to go on. I picked my tour shirt because I had nothing else to do. So I did that. Finally, we were told, oh, okay, here's a line you're going to be waiting on to go into the floor area. So we lined up, started to move, and they started taking us right onto the floor itself, where then finally security stopped us and said, oh, no, you're going to go to the wall, which was on the other side of this banister. So it was a lot of running. I got bumped. Oh, whatever. And I just said, you know what? I'm not dealing with this. Went to the back of the line, and that was that. But it was still more VIPs that were still entering. So they had a mostly single file line, create another single file right next to that one, or single-ish file line anyway. And some people who were in the back with me were like, well, hey, I've been waiting here first. Why are you guys moving up? And guess what they were told? Then you told us to come here. Yeah, that's been that theme again. So we've got like double lines, and finally they realized, oh, we're running out of room some more. Uh, it appeared to have been more VIPs than GAs. So I don't think they really thought about how many people were going to be there. So they started lining us up at the bowling alley, which is directly adjacent to the stage. And at that point, it seemed a little bit more organized at that point. Until then, they let the GAs in, and the GAs went right up to the stage. That was concerning, but I was just thinking, that's just how this night's going. I kind of figured that by the time I got my picture done with Hanabie, I would be behind the GAs. It would not be the first time a venue had messed up that royally. Uh, but some people who got there much, much earlier were very loud. They started chanting, pull them back, meaning the GAs pull them off the stage. And I kind of figured that's what they would do eventually, you know. And they did. I guess the event organizers spoke to security. They pulled them back, put them behind a banister, and then the night proceeded, mostly, mostly well. Oh, it was very late. It's 7 o'clock. That's showtime. The meet and greet is just starting. Uh, I think we really thought this was going to be held after the show at this point. There's just so many VIPs, and it just didn't make sense to do it before the show. But no, they actually said you're going to do it now. So we're all lining up. We're really close to the stage. There's no camera pit, so you're right up on the stage. So even though I was one person back, basically second row, let's say, I was closer than I've ever been to a stage. Oh, but then meet and greet's done. They removed the GA banister. Everyone's packed in. 8 o'clock rolls around. Nothing's going on. I think it was like 8:30 when finally Enterprise Earth comes on. They come on with Hanabie. I'm like, okay, well maybe they're gonna apologize for the wait. You don't have to. Like the venue's not handling this right. The venue's not handling this right. But then I noticed that Yukina was in plain clothes, and that's not a good sign. And yes, surely enough, Matsuri starts talking. I believe her tour manager is the one who is translating. You know, is kind of explaining the situation. And as it's going on, Yukina's chin is quivering. She's about to cry. And at that point, I think everyone in the crowd just wanted to jump on stage and give her a hug. It was hard to watch. It turns out that she hadn't been feeling well. She had a sore throat and she couldn't perform. So as Matsuri is explaining everything, she eventually does break down crying. And the whole band's taking their deep bows, apologizing. And the show of support from the crowd was incredible. Everyone was cheering them on. And even as they're walking off stage, Hetsu's now in tears with that kind of support. And yeah, the show went on. Anyone who was there just for Nabe, they left. It was unfortunate because we don't know if we're going to get refunds or even partial refund. I think a partial refund is justified in this case, just because the Master Pass VIP was based off of Hanabie playing, and Hanabie is the headliner. So we'll see what happens. Wouldn't hold my breath though. Oh, Enterprise Earth, fantastic. Necro Goblicon, fantastic. I've never heard of them before this tour, and that was my first time hearing them. So I was glad I stayed. It was a great time. One thing I do want to say though is if if a venue screws up, don't get angry at your fellow concert goers. They're going to do whatever the venue tells them to do because the venue is the one who controls that entry. Uh, do get angry at the venue though. Do complain. Do all that stuff. Because they're the ones who deserve that kind of blame. They deserve your wrath. So, and yeah, I just want to end off with saying that if you're a Hanabie fan, please reach out to them on their social media. Wish Yukina well. We just hope that this is uh, a short illness, and they can perform. Hopefully, I hope they can perform tonight. And if not, again, it sucks. She can't control it. Give her support. Give the whole band support. And I'll be posting some shorts of Enterprise Earth and Necrogoblicon in a little bit. Okay, I'll see you guys around.